if you go ahead and turn your chair around where you not get a crick in your neck, probably be wise. But I don't know where in the crap Eddie they want to call me Mister, but I'm not a Mister. But I do need to explain why I'm standing here. It's been probably 6 weeks ago. I got a call from Eddie Dale, and he said, would you be willing to come to a meeting to help the Booster Club organize a fundraiser? Well, my reply to that was, y'all be there if you're thinking I can be of help. So I went. And when we got there, he already mentioned the other men there, and most of them played for us. But he said, here's what I have in mind. I want to have a fundraising dinner, charge so much a head, and invite all the people that's ever played football at Gorgersville through the years, all the alumni back, their families, and just have a time together. And he said at the end, after the meal, we'll have a program. And he looked at me and he said, will you MC it? And I said, well, I told you when I came, if I could be a help, I would try. But what am I MCing? He said, whatever you come up with. Well, that being said, the next day or two, I'm in the lobby of the gym there where the trophies are. And there's 7 footballs here that signify football teams that went through regular season undefeated. There's 3 big trophies here that signify 3 different teams that played for a state championship. One was runner-up, 2 state champions. And there used to be a trophy there that was from the Lions Bowl, the first team that went to a bowl game. So, got to thinking, so many years of football, so many good football teams represented in this room tonight. Well, we can't cover all of them, but I thought we would hone in on these accomplishments. Now, the first football here, 1933. That football team went 9-0, and it only allowed 6 points. On that team was Coach Turney Ford and Coach Brian Robinson. And they were coached by Charlie Hughes. Now the very next year, back to back, they go undefeated again, 8-0. But the defense was not near as good as that 33 team. They allowed 3 times as many points. If you do the math, that's 18. And they were coached by a different coach. I don't know what happened to Coach Hughes, but the head coach was a gentleman named Shannon Robinson. Coach Ford could have graduated in 34, along with Brownie. But Coach Ford always told me he opted to come back and play football that fall and graduated at Christmas. Now, I don't know a lot about those 2 teams, but I do know a little bit about both those men. They had long, successful coaching careers in this state. Hall of Fame careers. Turney Ford Field, just recently designated as the best home field there is as far as walking into a place that's a little intimidated to play. Named after him. You go to Watertown, you walk into Robinson Stadium, place named after Brownie Robinson, along with his son. But they were polar opposites. They couldn't have been any more opposite. Coach Ford was conservative. He said, there's no sense in complicating a simple game. Brownie, formations, trick plays, element of surprise. Go for it on your own 20. Discipline. Coach Ford believed in discipline. I'll give you an example. My senior year, we beat Baxter 39-0 at home. Late in that ball game, Baxter started 2 fights. Started one with Big Sam McKinney. Big Sam took up for himself. They ejected both of them. A little later, they started another fight with David Pittman. David took up for himself. They threw both of them out. Now, if you come to our practice on Monday, you thought we got beat 39-0. He ran us, he ran us, he ran us, and he was screaming at the whole time. What he was teaching us was respect the game. Play between the whistles. Be disciplined. Brownie, not so much. Coach Ford believed by playing by the rules. Brownie, not so much. Matter of fact, he'd bend them as much as possible. There are some rules probably in the rule book because of his ingenuity and a way to get around them. Language. Now, I'm not going to say that I haven't heard Coach Ford use a 4-letter word every once in a while, but it wasn't the norm. Brownie, not so much. He told me one time while he was coaching Macon County that he got called in before the school board because of his language. And I said, well, how'd that turn out? And he said, I took care of it. And I looked at him, I said, you mean you quit cussing? He said, no, I locked that gate where they couldn't get in and watch us practice. Now, I don't know specifically how many times they played each other. And I think all of them occurred when Mr. Brownie was at, and I call him Mr. Brownie because I grew up there where he lived. And he was so good to me. I mowed his yard, I helped him feed his cattle, get his hay in. He kept money in my pocket when I didn't have any. But they played each other several times. Coach Ford was at Carthage, but Mr. Brownie never beat Coach Ford. And we were riding together to a coaching clinic. Coach Wills, you'll remember this. Coach Ford's still coaching. Coach Wills and I are helping him. We're going to MTSU to their coaching clinic. I called Mr. Brownie and I said, how would you like to go with us? He'd had that cerebral hemorrhage and was no longer coaching. But I knew when he got over there, he was going to sit at Red Turner's display and get to see a lot of folks and have a great day. So I go get him. He goes, and they're riding. Brownie's talking. He said, Turney, you remember that year when I had old Jimmy Glover, and Jimmy Glover evidently was a heck of a football player at Macon County. Went on and played at UT and was a starting defensive back up there. And he said, you remember old Glover? We took that opening kickoff and we was driving it down the field and y'all couldn't slow us down. And he said, Glover broke his arm. And he said, after that, we couldn't move a football. Y'all wound up beating us 7-0. He said, if Glover hadn't broke his arm that night, we'd have beat you. Coach Ford had one of them ooh moments. You know what I'm talking about, where he said, ooh. And he said, ooh, Brownie, I don't never remember y'all playing us that close. Well, when he said that, Brownie come unjointed, and Brother Mark, I don't think any of the words were in Scripture, but Coach Ford just grinned. Now, Brownie was the head coach at Gordonsville for 2 different times. The first time he was there was in the fall of 1946. And that football team went 10-0. That's been 80 years ago. And there's one person here tonight that can represent Coach Brownie Robinson and represent that team. Mr. Glenn Carson was a freshman on that team. Mr. Glenn, would you please stand? Now you think about that. That's been a long time ago. On that football team in 46 were the Lancaster twins. If you know anything about Gordonsville football, their names come up, Jim and Joe Lancaster. They left Gordonsville High School and played at Tennessee Tech and had great careers there. Jim's son is here with us tonight, Jim Jr. Jim, would you please stand and represent your dad? On that team also was Junior Kelly and Billy McKinney. They'd both been to the Navy and were back in Gordonsville and back in high school and back playing football. And Bill Bates was on that team. Brownie always said Bill Bates was the fastest player he ever coached. He said after 2 steps he was wide open. And if he was faster than Jim and Joe, he's pretty fast. They're going to play Lebanon that year. And Mr. Glenn told me before this program, Lebanon had a 3-year winning streak that spanned, I don't know how many games it was in a row. But anyway, Gordonsville was going down to play them. The week of the game, someone from Gordonsville goes into business in Lebanon. And the conversation comes up about the game Friday night. And the man that worked in the store in Lebanon asked this guy from Gordonsville. He said, let me ask you a question. He said, are those Lancaster twins as good as they say they are? The old boy from Gordonsville thought. He said, I tell you what, they're pretty dang good. They've named a town after them. Now, I've mentioned Billy McKinney and Junior Kelly, been to the Navy and back, and Bill Bates. Thursday afternoon, before the game on Friday, Mr. Brownie said he's at home and his phone rings. It's Earl McCullum, Southside Club in South Carthage, sold cold beverages. He said, Coach, I know you got a big game tomorrow night, but I've got 3 players over here right now. Brownie said, I hung up the phone, looked at Miss Beck and said, come on, Mama, let's go. Drove to South Carthage, go in the Southside Club, don't see anyone. And he said, Mr. Earl, you haven't seen any of my boys, have you? Mr. Earl said, no, Coach, I hadn't seen them. They saw him getting out of the car and they were hid behind the bar. Well, Brownie told me, he said, you know what? He said, I wasn't going to let them off easy. I'm going to let them sweat a while. He said, I sat down there and ordered me a beer. And I talked to Earl, and when I got through, he said, I went around there and I said, you boys come with me. He said, Billy McKinney was driving, but I wouldn't let Junior and Billy in the car with him. I made them ride with me. He said, I followed Billy McKinney to his house, went to the door and promised them they wouldn't let him out. He said, I took Billy Bates to his house, promised I wouldn't let him out. And he said, I just took Junior home with me. But they went down there that night, and Mr. Glenn was there and beat Lebanon 21-7. Ended that 3-year winning streak. Now, Brownie was only there 1 year, but he comes back. But in 1947, Mr. Odell Winfrey was the head football coach at Gordonsville. And I knew Mr. Odell all my life and never know that he coached football. So I called, when I got to looking on those composites in the hall, I called Scott and I said, Scott, I didn't know your dad coached football. And Scott said, I didn't for years either. And he said, finally, when I got to doing some research on Gordonsville football, I asked my dad, I said, Daddy, why didn't you ever say anything about coaching football? Well, he said, there's a reason, son. I didn't want you to know we didn't win a game. Mr. Glenn, you're the only man on that team as well. And you're the only man on the next team coached by Charles Ogles. And he was only there 1 year. And then Mr. Brownie comes back in the fall of 49, and he's there through 52 for 4 seasons. Mr. Glenn, I'd like for you to stand one more time and represent those coaches, please. And then in 1953, a gentleman named C.W. Pemberton came, and there's 2 of his players here tonight that I know of, and there may be more. But with Mr. Dickie Johnson and Mr. Paul Carson, please stand. Is there anyone else that played for C.W. Pemberton? Probably not, because both of these men told me he was like a drill sergeant, and Paul said if it looked like he took enjoyment in running you off. And I think at the end of his 1 year, there was very few people left on the football team, if I understood that correctly. But then and before we go any further, Mr. Paul Carson's here, and his son Greg's here. And at one time, Robert Wayne was going to be here, representing 3 generations. But we do have, I know of at least 2 men here tonight that have 3 generations with them, and there may be others. But if Glenn Vaden and Jerry Agee will stand, along with their sons and grandsons that represent 3 generations, I want you to do that this time, please. Is there anybody else representing 3? Now, there's several here representing 2 generations. If you're here with your son and both of you played in one of these blue jerseys, please stand. Now, 2 of those families that stood, there were certain numbers they wore. The McCaleb family, you wore 31. And Marty wore it till he tore that knee up, and we had to move him to guard. But yeah, that was a family number. And then the Cripps family back there, everybody wore 62. Until the last one came along, and old Bobby was had to play some tight end. They put 9 on him, but he wore it early in his career. Those numbers meant a lot to those families, just like maybe the numbers meant something in your family. I know those 2 did because there's multiple people wore them. Now this brings us to 1954 through 56, and I know Brother Dickie and I know Paul Carson played on that team, and I think Billy Bart Langston was a part of that team. Am I correct, Bill? 1 year? Where's Billy Bart? Would y'all please stand? And anyone else that played for E.B. Cutrell. David Haynes. Now, Bart told me during the time he played, that's when the first face mask came out. 57. Because Brother Dickey told me that he got, when he was playing in 56, his coach got him one before everybody else got one, because I think you had a broken nose, correct, Brother?
Bloody nose.
Bloody nose. Okay. But that brings us to 57 through 60. Mr. Ferris Harmon was a coach here for 4 years. And I know Mr. Kenneth House is here, and I know Bill played for him during that time. David Haynes played for him, and some of you other men. Anyone that's played for Ferris Harmon from 57 to 60, I'm talking fall seasons now, would you please stand? Mr. Fred Center followed Ferris Harmon, and he was there 3 years from 61 to 63 football seasons. The people who played for Fred Center, would you please stand? Following Fred Center for 2 years was Coach Bill Landreth, the fall of 64 and 65. If you played for Coach Landreth, would you please stand? And then following Coach Landreth, Coach Noel Cherry was there for 2 seasons, 66 and 67. If you played for Coach Cherry, please stand. Then following Coach Cherry for 1 year was Coach Bill Robertson. Called him Big Chief. He was only there 1 season. That was the fall of 68. If you play for Coach Robertson, please stand. Now, this brings us to 1969. Is Kathy here? Kathy, would you please stand? Coach Ford's daughter was here tonight, and she was hopefully going to say a few words. She chose not to, and I can understand that. But all you men that played for Coach Turney Ford, would you please stand? Now, what brought Coach Ford to Gordonsville? I've asked Billy Bart Langster to come and tell you.
All right, can you hear me all right? Okay, we'll just go while I go. Okay. All right. We've got a coach, Harvard Chet, chose to release Coach Ford, coaching student. So, he was making that line still one night, or if we could get Coach Ford to come to Carter. So we chose to, myself, I played baseball for Coach Ford back in the summer, in early 60s. Ron Langford was in the Lions Club, and had gone to school at Carter. So at that time, Ron called him and made us a appointment to go talk to Coach Ford. when we talked to him, he's too old to start again. I said, Coach Ford, I said, you just come going. And then 4 or 5 balls games, there was what we had. And he loved the hall, and so we went there, and finally he decided later on to come to Guam. And after a few years, he and I went to West Orleans playoff game, and I told him, I said, you know, I told you if you come to Guam, that 4 or 5 games win and build up. I said, you done spoiled everybody, they didn't trick you to win them all. Thank you.
Thank you for going. Now, Coach Ford was there 14 years. 13 of those years, Coach Stanley Wills was there with him. And along with Coach Ford, no one, in my mind, has meant more to Gorsville football the duration of 30 years than Coach Stanley Wills. It started in 7th and 8th grade with technique. And it ended the same way, technique every day. And he's agreed to come and represent those 14 years and represent the teams that earned the right to be talked about here tonight. And I know you want to hear what Coach Wills has to say.
Y'all hear me? Yes, sir. You know, I wouldn't have been up here had I known this many people was going to be here. That's for sure. I come in the parking lot and it was full of cars. I'd been told we was going to just get all the former coaches together, and there's more than coaches here. There's a lot of people here that I guess would like to coach, but here I am. Let me see here. Let me get settled down. I was in college in 1970. Hear it? Okay. Is that better? Okay. I've never done this before. I was in college and graduated in 1970. It's a Christmas break, and I was at the old 66 station out there where old Del Robinson had a service station. The Citizen Bank is now, and Mr. Anderson pulled up, said, "Get in." Of course, he'd been my principal for 4 years. And he said, "We're going to Carthage." Of course, he didn't say no more. Got over to Carthage, said, "We're going in here." And it was superintendent's office. When we walked in, he said, "Mr. Lewis, this is the man I want to hire." And I got me a teaching job, and I didn't know it. So I'm on the way back, he said, "I want you to help Coach Ford." Well, I'm still a senior in college and waiting to graduate. And that fall, when practice started, I went down there to follow practice, and I said, "Mr. Anderson told me I'm supposed to help you." And he said, "Well, come on, we're ready to go." So that was my connection to Coach Ford there, and that was after he'd been there 1 year. So, and it was the fall of 1970, and I learned a whole lot. I mean, he was already older than I was when I retired from teaching, when he came over there. And he had a lot of those things. It was plain old common sense that was taught to everybody. You know, we didn't lose anything. I know y'all remember we had to count every football before we went out. Had to count every one of them when we got in. Never lost a softball. We lost a lot of time hunting them, but we never lost one. We lost his whistle one day. And we're not leaving here, he said, till we find my whistle. Of course, he looked under his desk, and when he did, it swung around his neck. Been on his back. So those type things of doing it right, doing it like it's supposed to be, was instilled in the football program. And it was just plain old common sense. When he came from Carthage, after he'd been over 18 years, and come to a school that hadn't won any games in a long time, it was an adjustment period for the players that were there, and many of you played for them know what we're talking about. But by his second year, was able to win 4 games, lost 4 and tied 1. And the third year, he was able to win, I think, 7 ball games. Well, that's almost unheard of it going for, I don't think, a winning season, as Mark had just said. Had been there since 1957, I think. So it's been quite a few years just winning that. But the invitation to the bowl game to play Bellevue was really big. Now, if you were there, you probably remember how big that was. But Gornsville had not won in a long time, and the excitement that was created through that invitation to the bowl game and going down there and winning was unreal. And of course, you got to understand that this was the 1971 football team, and they were the first step in getting this program to believe that they could win. So if there's any of you guys here that played on that 1971 football team, would you stand up and be recognized? Well, somebody up there it is. Hey, Terry and Sam McKinney. I didn't see these guys here. I hadn't met them yet. That was a good group. Of course, we went to Watertown to play that ball game, and they were there in them shiny uniforms and shiny helmets, and we drove in. I drove the old yellow school bus, and they sat there with a big Greyhound. So it was country against city, and it was a big win. But that excitement got in the school and in the players, and the increase in participation was big, and it was just the first step that we had in a really a move that made it a lot better. And let's see, I've got some of these other teams we want to recognize. Now, every step after the bowl game, our records didn't necessarily show, how we're improving. Because you go have small schools going to have athletes one year and not have any the next year, and that's what we'd run into quite often. Let's see here. I believe Mark had covered it there. The winning season had not been there. I think somebody told me the other day that it's been only 10 winning seasons since Gornsville had been a football program. So that gives you some idea of what that was. But we didn't win every game, that's for sure. But we got much more competitive as time went on. And that was not indicative of what we were record-wise. Because right after that bowl game, and I'm going to get these dates wrong, but I believe 1973, we lost 3 of our first 4 games. And 3 of those losses went overtime, and that's the first year they had overtime. But that team went on to win 6 straight games after that. So it doesn't look like we made a lot of progress, but it was progress. And then by 74, we went 6-3 and lost the first 3 ball games. So still doesn't look like we're on top of the world, but we're still making progress. And of course, most of y'all know that one of those losses early was always Carthage. And then the 1975 team, if I'm right, lost the first game to Carthage, but won 10 straight. And then went to another bowl game, I think beat Watertown, I believe that's right, at that time. So yeah, we were making progress at that time with the wins and losses. The loss to Carthage, let me go back a little bit. 1972, there's a junior high team that we had that vowed that they'd be the team to beat Carthage. And that bunch was, Lyndon Grissom's one told me that. He may not remember it. He said, we'll be the team to beat Carthage. Am I right, Lyndon? Are you here? You don't mind? Stand on the steps of the old library. And of course, that's how the program had permeated down into the junior high program. They realized that losing to Carthage was one of those things that was a sore thing for us. And so they were were intent on it. They'd already been growing with it. And in 1976, they was able to go to Carthage and beat them 22-0. So if you don't think that was big, that was big. That's kind of like a monkey on your back. You got him off. All of a sudden, we hadn't been able to beat him in 29 years. And then all of a sudden, we beat him. The whole community was excited about it. School, everybody. I mean, it was unreal. If you were there, I guess you would know what I'm talking about. As the clock ticked down, he walked by me, and he said, how sweet it is. Which is, I doubt there's any bigger win for him during that period. Of course, him coaching over 18 years, and being let go, and coming to Gainesville, and being able to do what we did was good. That team went on now. Not only did they beat Carthage, they went on to be 9-2, and I think that's a bunch that, am I right, went down to Mount Juliet? No, that was 75 team. I get them mixed up right there, but we did. Barbow? Okay, that's where it was. Good pasture? Okay, that's where, how big was that? Well, the annual says that there was a turning forward day. Now, whether that was that or not, the annual's got it in there that it was designated November the 5th, 1976 as turning forward day. And I know we got pictures of him riding in the car with Mr. Clarence Nixon and Mutt Pritchett. And he's looks like a pretty happy fellow. So now that's big. I mean, when you beat Carthage and have that good a season right there and get that monkey off your back. So that team, some of you have names, would you please stand up and be recognized? The 1976 team that beat Carthage. I got some of these dates down here so we can get it mixed up. But success continued. I mean, we just gradually got better over time, and you could tell it in the play. Maybe sometimes the record didn't show it, but 1970, I believe 79, Coach Smedley came in there to help us. He'd been at Heights for a year, and he came in to help us. And the next step was trying to get in the playoffs. And to get in the playoffs, there was only 3 divisions then, and the districts were huge. So to get in the playoffs, you virtually had to win all your games or go undefeated. So it was pretty difficult. And I guess it was 1979 then, was able to go undefeated. Got a chance to go to the playoffs. Big time. Undefeated, Gainesville. Like Mark just got through telling you, last time he was undefeated is 1933 and 34. And so here we are with the undefeated team and going into the playoffs. So again, this excitement, you can imagine how much excitement is associated with that. But we get an opportunity to, I guess we beat Watertown, then went and beat, I went against Polk County. Am I right? Polk County. Long drive, it's about as far as you can go and stay in the state. And we get down there and kick the ball off in a dust storm. Couldn't see the ball. It landed in the mud, played in the mud the rest of the game. Yeah. So we got pretty good down there, but at least we got in the playoffs. We had an undefeated season. Something hadn't happened in going for quite a few years. We go on in the next couple of years, we're able to, this is 80 I guess, 80 and 81. My memory's not too good. Y'all got to remember, I'm thinking about something that occurred over 55 years ago. And I've already got some miles on me to try to keep up with this. So I've jotted some of that down. And let's see. In 1982, every team that had been with us over the years, if you were pretty good, Coach Ford had probably told you the story about the cow and the bee. If you got told that story, it got told more often. He started out with it a few years, and then it was more often he was telling about it. That's don't miss an opportunity. So, but by 1981, we had a 9-2 team, playoff team. It went down there and played beat by Watertown, I believe. Then the next year had another 9-2 team in 83. Not 83, I'm getting my years wrong. 82. And then by 82, I guess, 80, 81, 82, we went undefeated again. And so that's 2 years undefeated out of the 4 that we had. So that's pretty good doing at that particular time. If I'm not mistaken, that 82 team wouldn't let nobody score much at all. And we had to end up going into playoffs and playing Marion County. So that's 2 years in a row. But what I found out was the big change from inside looking at the program was getting in the playoffs had been a big goal. Winning a bowl game has been big. But then all of a sudden, the attitude on the team began to change. And it wasn't just going to the playoffs. They began to think about winning it. And so that mindset around 1982 really changed. Is any of that 1982 undefeated team still here? Would you stand up? 82. Okay, that's good to go. I don't know if a better going away present than any team could give Coach Ford. He retired in 82 and gave him an undefeated season, and he also was the field was named after him at that time, and so his legacy, I'm sure, lives on. I continued 4 more years to help Coach Wimper and help Coach Medley, and then I dropped out a while. Came back in 93, 99, and while I was there, I tried to use many of the things I had learned from Coach Ford in the program we had at that particular time. But most proud of the thing that happened was we were beginning to get a lot of the players come back and want to teach and help coach, because there was a lot of pride in the program and everybody wanted to see the program do well. And I think today it's the same thing. You've got a lot of graduates doing a lot of the coaching, and they have a lot of pride in the program and they want to do it well. So if this continues and you continue to give them the support that you have given them, I think you won't have any trouble having a strong football team for a long time. So I got the 4 teams maybe. Thank you. All right.
I want to spend just a few brief minutes here talking about something that's been of vital importance to our football program. After that '79 season when we did go undefeated and lost in the second round of the playoffs. We started a weight program. Now, that weight program started, and Vic Nixon's here tonight. Vic could weld, and he helped us make a weight bench and a squat rack. We had a fundraiser and raised enough money to buy a 10-station weight machine, and we started that program in one of those old elementary rooms. And after Coach Wills was coaching basketball at that time, Coach Ford had given that up, and Coach Ford and I were up there in the weight room in the afternoons, and we'd been lifting several weeks, but you could start to see a difference in people. And Coach Ford had another one of those ooh moments. And he said, ooh, Mark Medley, if we'd have done something like this when I was over there, he never would call him Carthage, he never would call him Smith County, he never would call him anything, it was just over there. But he said if we'd had something like this when I was over there, we'd had some teams that would have been dangerous. And you could see a difference. Snow days came, and back then when it snowed, if you remember, gosh, back in January a few years, we didn't go to school. But David Mixon sitting here. It had snowed. Candace and I are living in Hickman, and I didn't have four-wheel drive, and they didn't scrape a road from going up Hickman Hill back in those days. And he called, he said, Coach, I need to work out. And I said, I know you do, we all do. I said, but I don't know if I can get there. And he said, I'll come get you. David Mixon came and got me in that Volkswagen. It had a motor in the back. And after we got there, we made a few phone calls. And folks started getting there. It became tradition. Yep. And that weight room, we opened it 3 nights a week in the summer. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Guys came. We never had done that before. We were together during the summer. And that time we spent together brought us closer together. That time we spent together, they got stronger. And there was a group of seniors. Five of them are here tonight. David Mixon being one of them. Charles Thomas being one of them. Martin Wood being one of them. Jerry Strickland being one of them. Marty McCaleb being one of them. Tim Grandstaff was one of them too. Tim lost a battle with cancer a few years ago. Those 6 seniors called us, me and Coach Wells, in the dressing room after we'd beaten Watertown at home, because we're the one that would open the weight room during the summer. They bought us a plaque each that said, thanks for the weight room. Now think about that. Here's 17-year-old guys. Something's required of them that causes them to work. But they appreciate it so dang much that they pulled their money and gave us something that signified that. Now there's a saying, tradition doesn't graduate. People do. That tradition that started in that weight room, that tradition to work your tail off, that tradition to appreciate it, when they left there, it didn't leave. It carried on. And that brings us to 83 and 84, after Coach Ford had retired. Now I'm going to tell you, the next head coach there should have been Stanley Wills. But Stanley Wills, he said, Mark Medley, he said, that's just not me. But he said, if you'll take it, I'll help you. And that's the way it played out. Along with Steve Armstead, who was as close a friend as I have. And Steve was at Union Heights, and Mr. Anderson got him transferred, and he came, and us three coached that football team for 2 years. If you played during the seasons of 83 and 84, when I was the head coach, would you please stand? Now in 83, after that first ball game, I really wish Coach Wills had taken that job. We lost to that bunch across the river who had a 27-game losing streak. Gary Rankins won over 500 games, and he said that's the one that means more to him than anything, and I guarantee you I remember more about it than he does. And you know, Coach Ford won 240-something games, and he said the one that meant more to him than any other game was the first time he beat Carthage. That tells you how much the Carthage-Gornsville game means. But after that 83 season, we was in that old gym, and that night we didn't even have the lights on. And you talk about a guy, 27-year-old, was in uncharted water. But we made a promise that night. We're not going to quit. We're going to keep working. And a few weeks later, we played for a state championship. But I'm not going to tell you anything about that season, but I got a man who is. In all the years I coached, if I put one guy at the top of the list who represented what it meant to be a great teammate, what it meant to represent, to be a great leader, and what it meant to be a coach on the field, no one did it better than Kevin Wills did. And I want him to come at this time and talk about the 83 team, please.
Thank you, Coach Nobley, for that very kind introduction. And I'm going to stand up here because I'm so short. If I were down there, you wouldn't see me. But as Coach Nobley indicated, the 83 season was great in many ways, but it was also a story in perseverance. As he just indicated, we got off to a very rough start. We were beating Carthage at halftime, came out flat in the second half, and wound up beating us. So as bad as that hurt as a player, it also hurt a lot because we knew that was Coach Medley's first game. And it was a huge disappointment to him. And so we had to regroup right off the bat and learn a lot. The things I need to know in life about football, and I'll touch on that in a second. But starting out, in a hole, that was a tough place to be. But as he indicated, we did regroup. We played Watertown the next week. Did not start out great there. I actually think they scored first on us. Then they completed a long pass, and I was the safety, and evidently I didn't do a very good job because they threw a long pass down the middle. It was almost like, here we go again. But we kept rallying and played better as the game went along, and we got that first win. And then we just kept going and got better every week. We worked hard. We did not give up. And you heard Coach Wills talk about going to, I guess it was Polk County, and then Marion County, and Gornsville had not had a great history of beating teams from the East. I don't know why, but we'd never had a great history. And about midway during the season, we played a team, I believe it was Greenville, and they were Midway, sorry, you're right, Midway, thank you, Scott. We were both in the top 10. I think they were ranked about number 5. We had to go there. Similar story, to start out the game, they throw a screen pass, and I think they wound up scoring it. Very quickly, we're down 7-0. We came back, and we drove the ball about 80 yards down the field. I think we ran the option every time. We didn't pick up no less than 5 yards a pop. We wound up beating them pretty good that night. So we got over that beating an East Tennessee hurdle, okay? And then we kept going, and had a couple of tough games there towards the end. Wound up finishing very strong, and then we get in the playoffs. And we're having a great season. And second round of the playoffs, we're playing Ezel Harding. We lose the second round. And Ezel Harding had a very good team, and they had to come to Gordonsville. And it was a very hard-fought game, and one of the best plays that we ever ran when I was there. I see Thad right here. We threw a flea flicker to Thad. He tossed it to Brad, took it to the house, ran the left side about 45 yards. So we wound up winning. That was the quarterfinal game. And then we have to go to East Tennessee again to play Copper Basin. I don't know exactly where Polk County was, but I thought Copper Basin was about the end of Tennessee as well. So it was way up there. We go up there, I don't know, a mile or so before you get to the stadium. The road starts being painted red. So the middle of the road's painted. And so we go in there and face a very good football team. And tough fought game. And we go down right before half. We are about to score. And at that time, during the year, Coach Medley had given me the ability to audible or change the play at the line of scrimmage. So we're down about the 5-yard line, and I call an audible, and wound up, we had a penalty on the play. Somebody in this room might have caused that penalty. I'm not going to say who. And so we wound up not scoring at halftime. So as halftime is over, hit horn sounds. Coach Medley needs to get about the 20-yard line. And from the 20-yard line all the way back to the field house, he explains to me in very clear terms how I am not the audible anymore and about to score a touchdown. So he and I got along pretty well, but that night he made it very clear that I had overstepped my bounds. But anyway, we wound up going into overtime, and Tim Payne intercepted a pass, and then we got the ball back. And I remember sitting in the huddle, and I told the guys, we're going to run the ball 3 times right up the middle, Brad Cowan, not going to fumble. If we score, we win. If not, Barnes going to get a field goal. We're going to state championship. And that's exactly what happened. And so that was another massive hurdle getting over. Now, the state championship game did not turn out as we had hoped. We went down and got beat by Memphis ECS. At that time, there were only 3 classifications. There was no public versus private. They had a really good team. Several of those guys went and played. But we got to play at Vanderbilt, and great experience. It's still a painful experience for me. I see the trophy there. I've never touched that trophy, and don't plan on touching it. But at least we got there, okay? And hopefully that helped, set the stage a little bit, for the next year. We had a lot of great players my senior year, but we were also blessed, the class behind us. The junior class when I was a senior, great athletes, and they were able to come back the next year and get it over the hump. And so I was very proud of them getting it over the hump. But also wanted to say, appreciation for Coach Medley, Coach Wills, what they did for us. And I've told people a lot. I learned everything I needed about life and business, and a lot about being a parent. I learned on the football field and from these coaches. Just setting goals, the dedication, the working hard, the perseverance, the teamwork, all that's permeated everything that I've been able to do. And so I would not take anything from my experience. After I graduated, I left Gordonsville, but Gordonsville never left me. Okay, I still keep up with football every Friday night. I keep up with the teams. Found out this year we got a ladies flag football team. I thought that was the most amazing, great thing. And so I love the program. I love what it has done. And I want to end by thanking Eddie Dale, not sure where he's at now, and all the members of the Booster Club. 1, for this fantastic experience, but 2, the time that you give, all unpaid, you volunteer your time, and it's all about these kids. I'll certainly contribute back to the program. I can't think of any better place to make donations, to invest in these young kids here, so I'd encourage you to do the same thing. So thank you.
Now, I did chew on his tail about that audible, but truth be told, there's a heck of a lot of audibles that scored touchdowns that I probably got the credit for, but they deserve, Kevin Wells deserved them. 1984, we had one goal. It wasn't win a state champion. It wasn't to win a district championship. It wasn't to beat Carthage. It wasn't any of that stuff. We had one goal, and that was to win a state championship. Now, we had the roadmap. 83 gave us a roadmap. And when you've been somewhere before, I've always felt like it's easier to get back. We went to Westmoreland that 10th ball game of the year in 84, undefeated, and we beat them like 26-0, I think it was, for district championship, and we were 10-0. But there was no celebration in that weight room. In that dressing room. There was no celebration riding home on that bus. It was just quiet. And we faced the same four teams through the playoffs, starting with Salina, then East L. Harding, Copper Basin, and ECS. And we get there to win a state championship. I'd like to give you just a few examples of what went into that. It started with personnel. 83, we were split back veer. Brad Cowan was our left halfback. Our two right halfbacks shared time. Bob Dillard and Russell Wood. Now going into 84, we were going to go to the I and feature number 20, which meant we needed a good blocking fullback, but we also needed a good blocking tight end. Roger Crawford had graduated. Now the decision had to be made. Who's going to move from running back to tight end? We felt like Bob Dillard had the better hands, so we're going to move him to tight end. First scrimmage, he was trying to prove to me I can't play tight end. But we had a little talk, and he came through. There's no telling how many big catches Bob Dillard had that year. And I kid him a lot. If he'd have been a step faster, he'd scored a lot of touchdowns, but he got caught on the 1 yard line about 5 times, I think, which meant Brad got to score 5 more touchdowns. But old Russell Wood was that fullback, and every block meant something at fullback when you're running out of the eye. And most of the time, every block at tight end means something. So it didn't really matter who moved to tight end or who stayed running back, because we're going to give Brad the ball anyway. There was a guy on that team named Mark Vance. Mark Vance, 4th week of the season, we're playing Friendship at home, and he hurts a knee, and when he walks off that field, going to the locker room, the meniscus cartilage that he had torn catches in that knee, and he can't bend it. We get him to see Dr. Lipscomb. They scope it, clean up the cartilage. 2 weeks later, we're going to Trousdale County. Both teams are 5-0. Mark Vance is back on the field in 2 weeks. A guy named Kenny Mason, who's not starting, not playing a lot, breaks his hand in practice, has a cast on it, keeps coming to practice. Later on in the year, breaks another bone in the other hand, puts a cast on it, keeps coming to practice. In the playoffs against Ezel Harding that year, somewhere late in that ball game, Butch Agee takes a shot on his knee, doesn't come out of the game, finishes the game. We know he's got a sore knee with a meniscus tear. Not a lot of swelling takes place. So next week he's practicing. And it's either Wednesday or Thursday of that week. That thing tears completely and locks up on him. And he missed the last 2 games, 2 biggest ball games of his life. But that guy who kept coming to practice with broken hands, not getting to play much, the last 2 ball games of the year, lines up at defensive end and gets the job done because he's been working that technique Coach Wills taught every day. He was prepared for the moment. Brad County, in that same Ezel Harding game, which was a physical football game, on Saturday morning his ankle is swollen twice the size of what it should have been. Not able to practice at all leading up to Copper Basin coming to town. Goes to get therapy on it every afternoon. Coach Wills wrapped that ankle on Friday night with swelling still in it, and Brad County goes out and rushes for over 200 yards. And they have to call the EMTs twice to come and get people running a drag route across the middle of the field. State championship game, overtime. Thad Underwood, we're running a slant route. The ball hits him right in his hands, and he drops it on the biggest stage. 4th down. Timeout. 1 play left in that series. I'm going to the huddle. The guy who just dropped that pass meets me and said, "Coach, throw it to me again." Now, there's not many folks do that. Most of them are pouting. Most of them are hanging their head. Most of them are living with failure that's just happened, but says, "Throw it to me again." Well, the decision was over. That's who we threw it to. Now, that's how those are the kind of people it takes to win a state championship. And I'm not talking about just players. That's the kind of people it takes. And to you guys who got that done, you'll always be a part of my life. As anybody else in here that we ever spent time together, just means so much. And then we move on to 85 and 86. For 2 years, Coach Dan Winfrey was there. And Coach Dan Winfrey is going to come and talk to you about an 86 team who went undefeated And I've said this, the best coaching job I ever thought done at Gordonsville High School was done by this man coming. He took skilled people that were good, had young linemen, and made it work, along with the help of Coach Wills and Coach Armstrong. Coach Winfrey, please come.
Appreciate Mark was telling about how, he got roped into doing this, and he didn't do a very good job of explaining to us, Candace. I don't know how he does you, but I didn't know what I was getting into either. Stan said that, but first of all, in honor of what's going on tomorrow, how many dads in here? And I shouldn't leave off moms either. Moms. Y'all remember the first time you found out you were going to be a dad or a mom? I remember that. A lot of excitement. A lot of nerves. Anybody really question themselves when they figured out there's going to be a dad and they couldn't, man alive, there's a lot of pressure when it told me. That's how I felt in 1985 when I found out I was going to be a head coach at Gordonsville. I felt like a guy who was excited but didn't have a clue what he's getting into. And I did, but I had great help, had two great guys helping me. When Stan called me and told me about this, and he wasn't going to coach. And I was coaching in East Tennessee with Lewis Thompson. And when he told me he wasn't going to coach, I said, hey, dude, let me tell you, if you ain't coaching, I ain't coming. Don't waste my time, don't waste, And for those of you that don't know, he's my first cousin. His mom, my dad. I didn't grow up in Gordonsville, but Gordonsville has been a big piece of my history. A lot of Winfrey's there one time. Many of us left. Some people think that's a good thing. It may be. But anyway, came here in '85, and it wasn't a great start to a team that had just been to the finals 2 years in a row, but I had great help. Talked Stan into coaching, and Steve, and those guys did a great job. Helped me navigate being a head coach for the first time. 25 years old. Can y'all imagine? I look at those pictures some of you saw, and I'm like, who's that guy? And, that was just a whole different world. But what I remember about 85, and you got to set up 86 by knowing what's going on in 85, because we won that first game. We beat that bunch on the other side. In Watertown, we led the whole game, and they blocked a punt with about a minute left. All right, 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. And they lined up to kick a field goal, and I'm like, no way. A 40-yard field goal, and a guy with Gordonsville roots kicks a 40-yard field goal to beat us 10-8 in the last minute. And I'm going to tell you, you remember losses more than you do wins. So that's first loss as a head coach, and I've learned so many things that night, but that year. We ended up losing 2 or 3 more. I learned a lot during those years. I learned about team. I know a big difference in '85. We did get to a bowl game that year. I don't know how the rules changed, but 5 wins could get you to a bowl game with the belt buckle, and National Christian, I believe. But anyway, we played a bowl game, and I can remember a lot of supporters saying, "Who y'all playing? Who is it? We're going? Where are we playing? Where y'all gonna play? Who you gonna play?" And I thought, And then in '86, when we started out pretty good, it was who we play next week. Who do we play? I just noticed the difference between y'all and we. And I set that up because I told you we had 2 great coaches and great players. When Saban went to Alabama, he started something that's a big trend now. All these coaching staffs have gone out just outrageously large. And he started a thing called quality control. Assistant coaches. If y'all hadn't kept up with that. Quality control. And when I first heard that, whatever year it was, it sounded like Quality control. Saban ain't got nothing on me. I had quality control coaches at Gordonsville. I had Jerry Agee and Glenn Vaden and all their cronies. It was my quality control guys. Yeah, you were. When we beat Carthage over there that first time, Steve, the game was over and was coming off the field, and Jerry meets me. And I'm thinking, man, he's going to be excited. We beat that bunch 2 times in a row. And they had scored on us with about 50 seconds left in the game. And Jerry lets me have it for letting them score. Don't ever let that bunch score. So quality control, man, we had that way back in. We had that covered. We had great players. I'm going to ask those guys that played 85 and 86 if y'all will stand. In 86, we had 4 All-State players. That's why you win, because you got good players. Ken Blackman was a quarterback, Terry Manning tailback, Shane Vaden at receiver. And I'll tell you right here, after 40-something years of coaching, if you got a quarterback, you got a running back, and you got a receiver, you got an offense. You can find some guys to block and do all that other stuff. But Glover, where you at? Gary was our other All-State guy. And great guys. They were motivated. Quick story, and I'll close with this. When I started coaching in Unicoi County, they had been horrendous. Stan talks about the tough years here. When we got there, they had gone 1-9 the year before. And they had one of those 30-something game losing streaks right before there. You can look it up. Unicoi County, they were horrendous. And so Coach Thompson had played at Alabama under Coach Bryant, and he took his job, and I'm like, geez. But anyway, we were going to turn it around, all that. So he had us go out in the community and sell programs. And so I got assigned to a guy who was an attorney there in town, and the guy had a stuttering problem. And when I went in to see him, he said, Coach, come on in. I said, thank you. I said, well, look, here's the deal. I'm here to sell some ads for the program. And he said, okay, good. He said, I'll be glad to buy one. How's our team going to be this year? And, being a young coach, first job, I'm trying to make an impression. I said, oh, shoot, man, we're going to do good. We're going to win them all. We're going to win 10. Damn, how many going to play 100? So, and that's true. The expectations weren't very high. But when I came here in 1985, and if anybody ever asked me, how you going to be? And I said, hey, we're going to win them all. We're going to win 10. It was, is that all? Because 83 and 84 is a tough act to follow. But it was a lot of fun. Mark's a great friend. We had 2 good years, and those guys came down a few weeks ago. My family had a little retirement thing, and one of them made the comment that, Coach, we got you started. You're doing right in this team. They was the whole key to Dan Winfrey and coaching and the whole deal. Gordonsville's a special place, y'all. I've been in a lot of places. First of all, there's no rivalry in this state of Tennessee like Gordonsville and that bunch over there. There's not. That's the first thing. But it's a special place. It's a special place because there's special people in this room. There's great players, but there's great people. There's great mamas. There's great daddies. There's just special people. I said I was going to close with that last story, but I got to tell you this. Ron Crawford, I was coaching at Brentwood. Ron, great football coach, great friend. We had been to Maryville to visit with Coach Quarles when he was still there. And on the way back, we got up there in Cookville somewhere. He said, Winfrey, why don't we go over to Carthage and see Maynard, and let's go over and talk a little ball. And I looked over at him and I said, hey, dude, I know you and Maynard are great friends and all that, and I'll run over with you. But I can tell you right now, there ain't going to be no ball talking. And he looks back at me like, man, what do you mean? I said, Ron, you just don't understand. I'm just telling you. You think Brentwood Franklin's a big rivalry? And Riverdale Oakland, all that kind of stuff? I'm just telling you, ain't nothing like it. There ain't going to be no talking ball. I said, oh, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So we get off the exit, and we started driving over there. And really, this is kind of a funny thing, because I just know what's going to happen when we get there. And I knew Jimmy Maynard, and he's a good dude, and all that kind of stuff, and I don't even know all his coaches. I know Tyrone's boy was playing over there at the time. I got to meet Tyrone. That's about my son. That's about all I got out of there. But anyway, we get over there, and Crawford goes in the office with Maynard, and I'm standing out there, whatever. And we small talked there a few minutes. We get in the car in about 10 minutes. Started headed back. I still ain't said nothing. I was just waiting. Ron's driving. I'm in the passenger seat, and he looks over at me and he said, "Winfrey, you was right. I don't know what the deal is. They were going to talk no ball with you." I said, "That's exactly right, because I'm the other side." All right? And there wasn't going to be none of that back and forth. So it's a special rivalry. Keep beating them butts, guys. Keep beating them.
Thank you, Coach Winfrey. This brings us to 1987-88 football seasons. Coach John Condit was here for two seasons. He's here tonight. And with Coach Condit and everyone who played for him, please stand. Thank you. Coach Trillian White followed Coach Condit. He was there for 2 seasons. Coach White, I think, was going to try to be here tonight, but I don't think he made it. Am I correct, Eddie Dale? Okay, thank you. If you played for Coach Glenn White, would you please stand? Following Glenn White was Coach Brad County, who was here for 2 seasons, 91 and 92 football seasons. Coach County, would you please stand, and anyone who played for him, please. And then in the fall of 93 through 99 for 7 seasons, Coach Stanley Wills. Coach Wills, would you please stand, and anyone who played for you during that time. Following Coach Wills was Coach Bob Dillard, who coached 8 seasons from the fall of 2000 through 2007. If you coached with and played with Coach Dillard, please stand. And then in the fall of 08, Coach Ron Marshall came to Gordonsville. And he was there for 10 years, from 08 through 17. Coach Marshall is no longer with us, but with us tonight is his lovely wife, Deborah. And if any lady ever earned the title of being a coach's wife, Deborah Marshall did, and is the epitome of what it takes. And I'm not going to take her time, but I want her to come and represent Coach Ron Marshall. And before she takes this microphone, if you played for Coach Marshall during those years, please stand.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for inviting us and our family tonight to represent Coach Marshall, otherwise known as Moose. Gordonsville is definitely a special place that is full of love, support, and acceptance. Ron spoke glowingly of his time here as a player and especially of his head coach, Tony Ford. Coach Ford was more to him than a coach. He was his mentor and like a second father. He believed in Ron's ability, and that was ingrained in Ron throughout his entire life. Coach Ford asked Ron twice to come to Gordonsville and take the team to a state championship. Once was right after he graduated from MTSU. And the second time was when he was at Lebanon coaching with longtime friend Mark Miller. Ron turned it down both times, saying he needed more experience to be able to step in such big shoes and make his mentor proud. The final time that he got a phone call, it was Coach Medley. And he had said he had taken over as the principal at Gordonsville High School and asked Ron to come and take head coach. Without any hesitation, Ron immediately said yes. He arrived in Gordonsville ready to make Coach Ford proud and make his dream come true. And you all know how that happened. You know the history and the end of the story. All the pieces aligned to bring home a state championship. There were exceptional assistant coaches and families that sacrificed time for their husbands to be with the program. There were dedicated players, also known as the Brotherhood, and their parents, the best people you could ever know. Managers, exceptional. The cheerleaders, the filmers, the band, the play-by-play announcer, the radio announcers, the sports writers, and how could I forget Special Assistant Michael King, who was also there. Now, I also would like to recognize the most rowdy and rabid fans that I have ever seen in my life. I never saw a bigger, more dedicated fan base and cheering section as there was on November the 30th, 2012 at that state championship game. I know there was a picture up here on the thing, on the PowerPoint. It doesn't come close to showing what that was and what the energy was that day. I think the whole town shut down, and there were more people in the stands on our side cheering in blue and white than there are in the population of Gordonsville. So that was amazing. There were many, many other good seasons, wonderful people, special times. Ron thought the world of being here at Gordonsville. I'd like to give special thanks to all the coaches before and after Ron that have kept the Gordonsville program a force to be reckoned with in the whole state of Tennessee. I'm proud to be an adopted Tiger and always will be. And thank you very much.
With the members of that 2012 state championship team, please stand. Coach Marshall took a pay cut to come here. Coach Marshall was assistant coach at Oakland at that time. Rutherford County pays a lot more than Smith County did, and what the coaching supplement was at that time was not great. But he didn't come for the money. Deborah mentioned Coach King, Michael King, who we adopted years ago at Lebanon. Ron Marshall drove those many miles from Christiana every day, but he drove extra miles to take Michael King home so he could still be a part of it. And I could go on and on about him. But I do want to mention something about that 2012 state championship team and Coach's memory. An old coach was asked one time, do you pray with your football team before you go out and play? And he said, yes, we pray. And the reporter said, well, do you think it makes a difference? And he said, well, I'm sure most teams pray. But the longer I've been in this game, I think the good Lord answers the prayers of that team that has the biggest tackles. We had the biggest tackles. Not only size-wise, but the way they played. Tyler Cohen's the only Mr. Football winner from Gordonsville High School. Tyler, stand up. Keep standing. This is a duo. His counterpart sitting next to him, Cody Payne. Stand up, Cody. And along with that, we had a fullback who's here tonight. Nick Payne, stand up. Now, Friendship won the state championship 2 years in a row. We beat their tail both years. And the way we beat them was, as you guys put it, make it nasty. Running the football down their throat, off tackle, with a good fullback in the front. And I'm not taking anything away from Peyton Watson and Casey, who had great speed and were great athletes. But that state championship was won again by the people we had and what you men put into it. Now, Coach Marshall was the defensive coordinator and did such a great job. Again, we wouldn't have won the state championship if we had to stop South Pittsburgh on a 2-point play. Cody Payne came from the backside and got enough of that guy's ankles to break his momentum, and Cohen and company met him and kept him out of the end zone on a 2-point play, or we wouldn't have got the Cookville that year. And then we had to stop Huntington on a 2-point play to win 21-20. It came back to defense. Now, in the fall of 18 through 21, for 4 seasons, Coach Scott Clemens was the head coach. Coach Clemens, please stand, and all you men that play for Coach Clemens, please stand. And this takes us to 2022, when Coach Stephen Jackson, another example of taking a heck of a pay cut to come home. Coach Jackson came home. And he coached, and he's coach at present. Now, Coach Jackson is on his vacation. There's only 2 weeks in a year that a coach can go on vacation. That's called the dead period, and it started yesterday or today. but you make reservations in Florida 7 or 8 months in advance to get a place. His family had reservations there. This program was scheduled about 2 months ago, long before he scheduled his vacation. He's where he's supposed to be tonight with his family. He's not shirking his responsibilities, I assure you, because he doesn't take days off. But Coach Scott Clemens is going to come and represent Coach Jackson's years that he's been there, and he's going to represent a team that went undefeated that one of these football belonged to here tonight. Coach Clemens.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's been an honor to see some of the guys that as a kid, I looked up to that were playing football. This is such a special place. I've been at Gornsville playing for 6 years of my life and coached there for 32 or 31. And I got to coach with some great people. Every one of these coaches that we've mentioned, I either played for or got a chance to coach with. And it's been an awesome experience for me and my family. When I decided to step down a few years ago and let Coach Jackson take over, I was thinking it was time for some new blood, okay? And been trying to get him for a couple of years, get him come in, and he was ready to make that move. And I'm glad I did that. And I told him, I said, I'll hang around with you for a little while and help you out. And so we got to this last year. And, coming off the year before, we got beat in the first round of playoffs, which is something that we don't do around here very much. And last year's team bought into that. They went to the weight room, they went to work. You guys that was on last year's team, if you'll stand up. We have a really good senior class that took ownership and being a leader on our football team. Our younger guys bought in. Most of the people in this room, when you played both sides of the ball. You didn't come off the field. You was on all the special teams. You mixed water at halftime, did everything. Coach Jackson's always had a different philosophy, and this play a lot of people. At a given time last year, we were playing 30 to 35 people on a Friday night. I look out there last year against Fayetteville, and we had 5 freshmen on the field at a very critical part of our game. And they were playing extremely well. Well, what we've done was we've built some depth. And over the course of time, injuries happen in football. We all know that. Those freshmen now have gained some experience. And when it comes, as the games kept coming on and on, we just kept piling up the wins. And it got to week 9, and we're sitting here at 9-0. And then we win that one, and since we went to 2A, that bunch across the river now is week 10. Okay? It used to always be week 1, now it's week 10. So you're sitting there with a chance to win the region championship, go undefeated, and all you got to do at our place is beat the bunch from across the river. And our guys took it on. And they did a great job. I'm very proud of last year's team. I'm proud of the effort they played with all year. I thought we had a heck of a year. And, everybody always asks me every year, how's our football team going to be? That's the number one question I get asked. And I see everybody everywhere, and they say, how's the football team going to be? And I say, it's all about those seniors and how that they do. Are we going to be ready? Playing football at Gornsville is special. It just always has been. And it always will be. And you look around this room and you know why. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Clemens. Before we leave here tonight, I want us to recognize just a few people. man I want to recognize is no longer with us. Mr. Bruce Apple. Family's here tonight, his wife and 2 sons. Would you please stand? For 20 years, Bruce was the PA announcer at Turning Ford Field. And it was done with class. It was done the right way. And the only thing that took him away from that job was he took a job at Dana and it required him to work second shift. And Bruce Apple was a part of that Lions Bowl team that Coach Wills was talking about. He was the safety. We were up 8-6 and the last time they had football. They threw a pass down the middle and Bruce Apple intercepted it to seal the win. And when you talk about good men, you don't find a better one. Thank y'all for being here. And then following him for the last 20 years, Mr. Galen Fish is here tonight. And Galen Fish does it with class the same as Bruce did. Galen, would you please stand? Thank you for everything you do for our school. It's more than just PA. And then on the radio, for several years, the late Keith Williams was there doing the play-by-play. And I remember one of his good buddies said, "I love listening to you, Keith. You never know what you're going to say next." And there was a good reason he didn't know what he was going to say next. But he made it exciting. Keith's no longer with us, but Pat Warren took over for him, and Pat helped Keith while he was still doing it. Pat, would you please stand? Thank you for so much for what you do. My brother lived in Tampa. I explained to him how he could watch this game after it was being streamed, and when it was on DTC, and he told me, he said, "Look, I'm going to listen to Pat." But he'd call me on Saturday morning wanting clarification on what happened during the game when it got excited. It's hard to tell who Pat's for. Now, most recently, Eddie Dale has helped Pat, and Eddie Dale, for all you do, and also been done here tonight in this Booster Club. Thank you so much. Now, stats are important. These stats and the history of this program have been kept through the years, and that started, or I say it started, Larry Watson, who taught at Gordonsville for several years, but late Larry Watson kept those stats so distant. And Eddie Dale was on the sideline with him, son of Lord, along with George Cowan, and following him was Scott Winfrey, who walked those sidelines many years and no longer is helpful alive, but recently Shay Hale has done that. And I don't think Shay's here tonight, is she? And of course Scott's not here, but it's so vital. Is Danny Bass here tonight? I know he bought a ticket because I sold it to him. He scraped up a $20 bill 4 once and had to go to a closet to find 4 quarters. I thought sure he'd come in. But I bring that up for a reason. The Bass family has supported Gordonsville High School for years with the J.L. Bass MVP award. Mr. James Bass used to come and present that thing every year. And he would MC the athletic banquet, football banquet. And he'd always give director of schools a chance to address how it was coming to on the Dome Stadium for Gordonsville. Is our director here tonight? He was. He left. It got too long for him. But anyway, the Bass family has supported that program all through the years. And you men who won the J.L. Bass MVP award, if you're here tonight, please stand. That brings us to the close. And you've been so patient. And I explained to you why I had to stand here. And I guess if you didn't like the program, there's only one person to blame, and that's Eddie Dale for asking. But I do want to say this. We built this thing. I say we. This thing was built on more than just football. And we always said, where we was in on one knee after practice talking, or whether it's in the dressing room, or whether it's in one of those classrooms going over skull session, we always said, whatever was needed fixing, we had to have each other's back and fix it, because that's all we had. We also said, there would come a day in everyone's life when things happen where we need somebody. And the people that would usually come to you were going to be found kneeling with you or sitting in those dressing rooms with you. And you wonder about that. You wonder if that's true. I stand here to tell you it's true. About 18 months ago, we needed people to come to us. And you came. Thank you.
Well, I thoroughly hope y'all have enjoyed the night as I have. Have you? Just a couple of housekeeping things we're gonna do here, and then we're gonna turn you loose. Rick Ames here, he went to sleep 30 minutes ago, so he's on Eastern time, so it's way past his bedtime. But, again, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. I think it's been special. We've had a lot of history. The legacy's here. Coach Manley, thank you. And thank you for being a part of this. We'll see where we're at next year. I think it's a good thing. We can't let this die. Coach Wills is over here. He's preached history and not letting our past go for a long time. And I think we finally got through. So, but anyhow. A couple of housekeeping things. We got some door prizes. Angel, can I get you to come up here a minute?
Oh.
Got a few door prizes we're gonna give away. Again,